Have you ever fainted before? As in passed out? Lost consciousness? How else can I phrase it? You were a wuss. That's what happened to me. I confess. Confession bear time. Well, so I told you the awesome story about the time when I went into the ER and the guy basically put a hole in my thumbnail because I smashed my thumb with a hammer and blood squirted everywhere. Look it up. Awesome story. Well, I didn't really tell you a part of that story, and that was after I was done, I sat up on the edge of the bed and I was feeling great. It's like, all right, my thumb is no longer going boom, 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 and throbbing like mad. Wow, that hurt. So the pressure was released. That's good. And so I was dangling my little legs there and was all set to get up. Okay, if you've ever fainted before, it's a very strange feeling, especially if you've never had it before. But the whole room, it's called tunnel vision, where the sides of the room sort of come in around your eyes, and things just kind of start sloshing and swirling everywhere, and people's speech kind of gets a little slow like this. It's so wild, but not something that you want to experience because you quickly fall asleep, and then you wake up, and when you wake up you'll probably be on the ground looking up. But I remember the floor, which was black and white checkered tile. Never forget the color of that floor, because that floor approached my face very quickly. I didn't hit my head, promise. I'm normally like this. But my poor mom was like, nurse? And the nurse came in, she was like, oh, okay, got a little lightheaded there. And I was awake at this point, sort of on the floor, trying to pull myself back up onto the table. Like, hey, I'm okay, I'm okay. I was not okay. Since then, I've never really been too fond of blood, which is very unfortunate. When I go and get like my blood drawn or something, I get slightly lightheaded, which is really frustrating because I have dealt with blood, as in like saw open surgeries on mercy ships in Africa where they peel back the skin of people's hands and you can see the awesome network and tendons and nerves in there, and just their raw flesh with blood coming out. I was perfectly fine, even when they started cauterizing and you could smell the burnt blood. Oh, if you're ever there for cauterizing, please excuse yourself. You may not like it. But I could deal with this. Like, whoa, how come I could deal with all this grisliness, and yet a small little needle poking into a vein, a perfectly sanitary thing that is going on here, why am I losing consciousness? You know, because, you know, you associate people who faint with wusses. Like, you can't handle it. What's interesting about this is I have heard the opposite. The taller you are, and the bigger and more manlier you are, note the beard, the more likely you are to faint. And now, is this because, you know, deep down inside, big people are just like wusses and teddy bears? Perhaps. I'm not that big of a person. I am tall-ish. You know, there are people who are taller than me. But a 6'2", in case you're wondering. I am 6'2", in the morning. Yeah, so I was reading All Things Great and Small by James Herriot. Have you ever read that book? I kind of grew up on that book. My dad read it to me and my family. It's basically this rural veterinarian who goes to different people's houses, and he experiences these really strange people, and he tells these fantastically entertaining stories. Very similar to these stories right here, not meaning to compare myself with James Herriot, who is a masterful author. But these people who you hear him describe in these weird situations are like, really? That's just so entertaining. And I hope you get that from this. One of these people was a big guy who helped him deliver, I think it was like a calf out of a cow. And this guy, you know, how he described him was magnificent, as big as a door, and every spoonful of mashed potatoes he ate was as if he had a ladle cupped in his big paws. And how he described him was wonderful. And of course this guy ended up fainting at the sight of all this blood. So, oh man. So I've been told, I don't know if this is true, if you're a physician out there, please tell me, but it must have something to do with like tall people and their hearts basically pump too much blood, like they're too strong. I don't know, but please explain to me why taller people generally faint more, besides the obvious, well, you're just a wuss. The other time I experienced the needle was on Mercy ships, actually. And Mercy ships, in case you don't know, is giant floating hospital ships. And Liz and I volunteered for 5 to 6 months in Africa. And how they structured their blood bank was very interesting. They didn't have a way of storing blood for long periods of time. So, their blood bank was the crew. Isn't that neat? So they had a list of everybody. It's like, oh, you're O positive or you're A negative. I think I'm A positive. I'm pretty sure I'm A positive. I'm positive. Well, I got a call over the speaker system. Will anyone with A positive blood please report to the blood lab? I was like, yeah, that's me. I'm gonna go be a hero. In case you're wondering why they needed blood, the local African kid was in surgery. He was getting his legs straightened out because he was born with his knee on backwards or some wild things like that. It's so crazy. And they need blood. And so you go and they hook you up, and then they take this bag of blood and they take it across the hallway into the operating room and then just plug the bag in like that. Isn't that wild? So I sat down there and the guy was really nice. He popped the needle into my arm and I was feeling great. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna conquer this silly fainting spell thing. Even though the blood episode with me falling in the hospital, that was, oh man, 10 years before, if not more. I was like, oh, I've gotten over it. Evidently I didn't, because of course this blood technician, what do they call them, phlebotomist? Oh, score a big word for Beau. I'm not too good at good words. So this phlebotomist, man, I'm so pleased with that. He must have noticed that my face was sort of pale, and he said, you're gonna stay here for a little while. I'm like, why? Am I looking pale? Yeah, here, have a Coke. Which, I got a Coke in Africa. So happy. Anytime you could get a Coke is just amazing. Side note, did you know in American Sign Language, Coke is this? Yeah, as in a needle in your arm. Isn't that magnificently literal? As in like shooting up with Coke. Wow, you'd think if you were the Coca-Cola brand, you'd like sue the American Sign Language people. Be like, come on guys, can you give us something besides shooting up? That's not too good for our brand. So anyway, I got a Coke, and I talked with the guy about cards and so a bunch of frivolous things. He was probably just trying to distract me. But a wonderful experience. I don't regret it. Some African got my blood and hopefully changed that person's life. Matter of fact, I can guarantee you we dramatically changed that person's life. But isn't that just so cool how you can donate part of your body towards helping someone else. I love that. Just the coolest thing ever. Even at the expense of possibly fainting. What a woof I am.